Hi, it's Lynn here, popping by with a free resource. If you're a singer who wants to teach but sometimes feels a little unsure or overwhelmed, I've put together some free resources to help you feel grounded and supported as you take your next steps. Just check the link in the podcast description and you'll get an informed, practical PDF guide to help you get started, plus a few follow-up resources to help you feel less of a fraud and more confident in your teaching journey.
Have you ever wondered how a singing teacher ends up working on a TV drama? What skills production teams are actually looking for when they bring a vocal coach on board? And how different is the coaching for screen compared to the one-to-one setting? In today's episode, I am joined by vocal coach and performer Candi Underwood, who's back on the podcast to talk about her experience working as a vocal coach for television, including coaching Matt Smith on the Sky Atlantic adaptation of The Death of Bunny Munro, based on the novel by Nick Cave. We explore how this opportunity came about, what it's really like coaching in a high-pressure filming environment, and which skills singing teachers already have that make them far more prepared for this kind of work than they actually realise. If you've ever been curious about where your work as a singing teacher could lead, especially beyond the studio and onto screen, this episode is for you. So let's dive in. Candi, welcome back to the podcast. It's so lovely to have you here again. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Yes, I'm okay, thanks. You know what? Yesterday, when I was like, what have I got on my schedule? Oh yeah, I'm speaking with Candi. And then I was like singing all the bangers that have your name in it. How does it feel to have...
Very triggering. It's very triggering.
Oh, sorry about that.
Imagine being a child and having people sing I Want Candy at you.
That was the one.
Yeah. Well, the worst one was 50 Cent. Do you remember Candy Shop?
Oh yeah, no, that's not great.
Bringing it down early in this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no one's writing a song about Alexa.
Everybody's saying your name though, babe.
Yeah, they're ordering me around and I don't like it. Put the lights on, Alexa. Alexa, what's the weather?
So bad. That's triggering name stories sorted. What have we got next?
We have got goal setting next. In goal setting, we sometimes have this idea of the 1-year plan, the 5-year plan, and the 10-year plan, and creating steps towards that end vision. Now, the first time we spoke was actually one of the first episodes that I did for this podcast, I think, about almost 5 years ago. And it was all about digital marketing and how that was a really awesome transferable skill for you into your business as a singing teacher. So what's happened? Fill us in on the last 5 years, pardon the musical theatre pun.
I love that. You know, I'm here for it. Yeah, last 5 years have been busy. Yeah, when I last spoke to you, I'd been basically building my coaching business for a while. But since then, I guess I've just... since then we had COVID, I think it's fair to say that, and that kind of changed the game for everyone. We had to all change what we were doing. And I think for me, it kind of made me realize that I wanted to broaden my idea of coaching a little bit more and rather just stick to one-to-one, sort of go out into the world and see what else was around, really. So in the last 5 years, I've started a choir business, which is great, an intermediate musical theatre choir. Because, goths love musical theatre. I found out I had a lot of people coming in going, I want to learn how to scream and sing Defying Gravity. And I thought, that's a niche. So I now have 4 choirs across Sussex. And I'm still performing. So still doing like weddings and that type of thing. And then doing my original project, which is screaming. So that did really well. I started that in lockdown, learned how to scream in lockdown, which is something I've always wanted to do, but was terrified of doing as a singer. And then, launched my project. Played some festivals, played some like really good shows with people that I admire. So that's been really good. And I've gone through 3 studios since I last spoke to you, each one better than the last one. So now I'm at the peak and I'm coaching 3 days a week and I'm fully booked and it's great. I can't complain. Like my life is really good at the moment and I've worked hard, but I am excited to see what else kind of comes my way.
Well done, Candi. Sounds great. Considering those initial goals and plans that you may have had then, did working with Matt Smith, the actor, as his vocal coach for the Sky Atlantic hit The Death of Bunny Munro or anything similar actually make it onto that list?
It sort of did, but maybe not as specific as that. Like, I think it was one of those things that I was like, I would be interested in trying that. I was very one-to-one when I first started. And when I looked, was looking at goals, I was like, oh, maybe I'd like to go and work, in higher education at university. So I went and did that. Or maybe I'd like to do more group workshops, or, TV was definitely on that goal of going, I wonder how that works. I wonder how that works. I didn't really truthfully think about it that much. I think it's fair to say like it was just a right place, right time kind of situation. But obviously now I've seen it. It's something that I would be interested in trying out again, certainly.
Can you set the scene for us? What is the story? If we haven't seen it, what's the story of the death of Bunny Munro, and what was required from Matt Smith from a singing point of view?
The Death of Bunny Munro it's a Nick Cave novel. Nick Cave has quite an interesting mind, as you probably know if you're a Nick Cave fan. So it's a little bit of a twisted story. Essentially, it's this traveling salesman. He takes his son around Brighton under the premise of, teaching him the tricks of the trade. But really, he's an alcoholic. He has substance abuse issues. His wife has committed suicide. So it's very much this kind of story that just keeps getting worse and worse as it gets further out of control. And there's this idea that there is this kind of devil serial killer that's following the story. And essentially the bit that Matt needed to sing in was the final episode. I don't really want to give many spoilers away because it's a thing, but it's a redemption scene, I think is fair to say, where essentially he can say sorry to his wife about the way that he treated her. And he has this opportunity to do so. And he does it through song. So he does it through singing You Are Always on My Mind. So the Elvis Presley song. So what was required for him was in rehearsals was to sing it a cappella. He had to sing it a cappella in front of a room full of people staring at him many, many times. Then when he was doing it and actually recording it, then he had a band. But when it was a cappella, it was, completely unamplified in a theatre. So it took a lot of guts, singing a cappella like that. It's not easy.
The company that you were approached by was a production company. What do you think led them to you? What specific skills were the team looking for in a vocal coach?
The way they first found me was location based. So they were filming everything in Brighton. And they were really passionate about having local people be the crew, which was really lovely, to be honest. They could have easily brought down someone from London. And I had to go up to London to do some of the practices. So it was a bit like, this is weird. But they were looking for coaches. And I think it was the fact that I have marketed myself to work with professionals. Really, that's kind of where my marketing is for. It's quite like nerdy and technical and very specific in that way. So it doesn't really scream come and see me to beginners. It's very much people that have had some type of training and they want to build on it or kind of work with that. I think also the fact that I provided them with a CV. They wanted a music CV, and obviously on that it said I had performing experience myself. I have worked in higher education. I have this training. I think that really, it gives us kudos. It's quite an unregulated business still, vocal coaching is, which is, if you really care about it in the way that we do, could be very worrying. But I think to have a job like this, they needed to see that essentially there was some type of like accreditation, whether that was a degree or whether that was actual experience, real world experience in working with people. And a lot of my clients previously, I've worked with people who are in bands or people who have done like auditions, like West End auditions, that type of thing. So I think that was kind of the icing on the cake.
How many coaches were sort of up for the job, or was it just you?
No idea. Not the foggiest. Let's pretend there was no one else. No, I'm joking.
No, let's pretend there were 1,000.
Yeah. They sent me the email. I had to have a phone interview with them and then provide a music CV. But I don't have a clue how many other people were kind of in on it. As far as I know, my network here, not many other people were approached, but I never asked. Maybe I should have done. I could have felt really
I quite like that you're bouncing around like, I'll have an interview. Yeah, I quite like that opportunity.
That's pretty much how I roll. Yeah, I think when you're creative, there's a certain aspect of your personality that always lives like that. You've got to roll with the punches. I think being self-employed, you have to do so. And you go, yeah, go on then. I always think you should say yes if you've got enough time to prepare. Obviously, they're like, can you go? And I don't know, go on a unicycle. I'm not going to be like, yeah, if it's next week. But if it was in like 4 months, I'd probably still say yes. And then be like, right, better learn how to
get Get on a unicycle.
Like an
Love
example.
it. How long was the gig? You said that you were going up for some practices and things, but did you have to shift any of your other work?
Yeah. So I did two in-person rehearsals, one in Camden, one in Brighton, and then two like 1.5 shoot days, pretty much. So I did have to shift work. The Camden one, actually, funny enough, I had a function gig afterwards. So I went and coached in North London, and then I drove to another part of the country and did a function gig in the evening. And then the Brighton one, I essentially had to move a lot of my clients. But it was one of those things where it's like, I can't tell you what I'm doing, but trust me, it's like it's cool, and I'll do my best. And I just worked different days that week, to make sure that my regular clients didn't obviously feel like I was pushing them out in that way. But that said, I had a similar thing last year. So I was in the Marks and Spencer's Christmas advert. So that was a lot of shoot days. That was a lot of like recording. We went and recorded in a studio in London. There was a lot of moving around. And I think the thing that surprised me the most is actually that my clients were like, it's okay that we don't know what's going on, but we're just really happy for you. That's really cool. And then it was just really lovely when this happened and that happened. And obviously you can then tell people about it. Like, it's really validating to be like, people are happy for you as well. We give so much as coaches. It was really nice. Yeah.
You mentioned that you would prep to go on a unicycle. How much preparation did you have to do for this, The Death of Bunny Munro? Had you read the Nick Cave novel? Like, were you a fan of Elvis Presley? Did you have to do any of those kind of research bits?
Yeah, I'm regretting the unicycle massively, but let's just roll with it here, shall we? Yeah, so I haven't read the novel. I hadn't read the novel. I got sent the script, but only for that episode. They were sort of like, here's a vibe for this episode, but they actually didn't really give me much before. Obviously, I looked it up on the internet, as I could. But in terms of prepping for the actual song itself, they gave me a brief. So I had a phone call with the director, and they were like, okay, Nick wants he wants Matt to sound like if Nick Cave and Frank Sinatra had a baby, that's what we want this to sound like. So essentially I was like, cool, that gives me enough to go on. So I did what anyone would do, and I listened to them, and I kind of vocally analyzed the style of both of them, looked for the commonalities, and sort of like created a foundation of, okay, these are the sorts of things we can put in that isn't going to make it sound too contemporary. It's going to sound, like that nice mixed style. It gave me a sort of a nice starting point for when I walked in that first day, and I didn't really know what I was walking into, let's be honest. Like, I didn't know if he could sing well or not. I didn't know really much about his background, but it gave me as a coach a starting point of going, okay, if this is the brief, at least I've got some things to whip out.
And when you studied those voices, what did you note to be the similarities? What was that end product that you were therefore looking to reach?
Sinatra's quite difficult because he's actually quite different in different songs, but it's a kind of simpleness, I guess. Like Nick Cave, thinking about him very specifically, like he'll use rhythm quite a lot. So in something like Red Right Hand, he uses a lot of kind of more staccato stuff to get that kind of evilness and that impression of like anger or distaste, but without kind of having a raspy tone or anything. His actual tone is more talky. In that it's not very elongated, it's not flamboyant, I guess. And Sinatra in certain songs is very similar. They both use a little bit of vibrato, but it's not overused. It's very much coming from a place of no frills, like, no fry on sets, no like fancy riffs, none of that. Just like simple singing, nice round vowels, lots of emotion, and letting that drive it rather than it be, I guess, it's like any character. It's sort of, it isn't supposed to be unique in that manner. In terms of having too much contemporary style to it. It just needs to tell the story.
Yeah, we were talking with Jay Ramage last year, quite a few months ago now, about when she was working with people on a particular show who was sounding like George Michael, and the studies of those voices and what you actually find in them. It's quite interesting to go a bit down that route and study a vocal mapping of a song and the vocal identity of people.
Yeah, I do it a lot in session. In order to try and to help people kind of look at what their influences are and what the commonalities are, and maybe why they've picked up skills that they didn't realize that they had. I think it's a really, it's a really useful ear training skill to be able to do that as a vocalist. You can appreciate what other people are doing more. And also you have more autonomy to make decisions as to what you might want to use or what you might not want to use, what's in the toolkit. So, I mean, I love getting really nerdy about that type of stuff. Like it really floats my boat.
Were there any boundaries that you felt important to put in place when it came to working with someone in maybe a high pressure environment?
I think it's like a mutual respect thing, right? I think sometimes it's just me and Matt, sometimes it's me, Matt, and the director. And it was really interesting because I think I'm so used to working with singers who quite a lot of the time I'm getting them to make decisions and getting them to sort of leading them in the way, but not giving my own opinion. Whereas working with actors, it was really different. It was like everything needed an opinion. So I think there being a kind of like a respect between the three of us that all three opinions were valid and that kind of we all want the best for it. I think that was really important because I sort of had to amend the way that I was speaking because we didn't have time to go on this long kind of mindful journey. So I think that was one of the things. Apart from that, to be honest, some of it's like logistical, isn't it? It's boundaries of going, I'm sorry, I can't do that day. Or, okay, I can do that, but I can't do this time and things like that. And just kind of juggling. It's more of a business logistical thing.
In singing teacher training, sometimes we talk about taking the history of the singer so you get a really good picture of what you're about to work with and the person in front of you. Was there any chance, were you allowed to ask those sorts of questions? Did they feel relevant to ask? How did you find that you were getting to know Matt's voice?
I think I did some research prior, basically, because basically it's like you've got an hour and a half. He's got movement before, he's got acting afterwards. This is the only time you have, basically. And it's like he hasn't done any singing that day. So you've got to fit in a warm-up, you've got to fit in this. It's like, okay, cool, okay, great. So I did quite a bit of research going into his history to try and figure out had he had coaching. Obviously, then I found out he had been on Broadway. So I was like, okay, this is good. This is a start. But then going into it, it was really interesting because I essentially had to gather history as I was going, which we do a lot in session. We don't sit and have like a 20-minute chat at the beginning. We do it as we're doing things. And one-to-one, quite often you have weeks together. So you slowly kind of, open the shell as such, and people become more and more open to you. They do say it's cheap therapy for a reason. There we go. But with this, it had to be like, I guess he was naturally more guarded, as he would be, as was I think as well, as was I, because you're thrown into the situation where you don't know each other. You've got to figure out how to get something out of someone as quick as you can. So I think had I not done that history beforehand, I probably wouldn't have had as much information. But I had, to be honest, I'd studied live YouTube videos of him on Broadway that I'd found before I walked into the room.
In American Psycho?
Yeah. I basically just found as many live videos as I could of that, because that's the only time that he's kind of, sang publicly like that. Because I knew, I was like, I'm not going to have any time. I'm not going to have any time. And it was kind of quite a new experience for me, to be honest. In our one-to-one studios, we do get into a routine. Every singer is different. Every voice is different. But the truth is, the longer you do it, the more you can spot patterns. And the quicker it is, like you can get history from someone, but it's quicker because you can start to go, I've seen this before. This could work. And then it works. Or, you kind of get into that situation. Whereas with this, it was like, who knows? So I had to do a lot more prep work prior, secret prep, so that I could just go straight in. One more thing I would say about getting the history from someone is because he was higher profile, you can't ask us personal questions as you would do so if it was quote unquote a normal human being. There were certainly more lines that I was very aware that I couldn't cross. So I had to come up with more creative ways of essentially getting the information I needed without asking it, because you can't feel like you're prying. It has to stay, if anything, even more professional, because we were on location or because of who he is. There's almost more of a separation between the artist, or in this case the actor, and the coach, because they are high profile. So it's respect, as I said before, but being aware that you can't ask the same questions.
I'm just pressing the pause button on the podcast for a very brief moment to invite you to book your free BAST call. If you've been thinking about joining the BAST community through one of our courses, but you just don't know which option is the best for you, then why not book your free Zoom chat with our very own Kimberly George, who has all the answers? Head over to basttraining.com/book-a-call/ and click that big blue button. That's basttraining.com/book-a-call/. Now, where were we?
Were there any skills that you were surprised that you weren't expecting to use but ended up being essential?
Maybe being more on the performance coach side, because quite often I'm in technical land. When I'm in one-to-one, we do a lot of the technical stuff first, so then we do the performance, and I'll put on client shows and I'll go and watch clients gig and things like that. But quite often I'm on set, it's different, it's repeated, it's a lot of repetition, you're doing the same thing again and again. And I think genuinely just being a friendly face, just having someone so that they can come, the actor comes off and they go, was that right? And you're like, yeah, that was great. Okay, let's just do it again. Maybe, let's tweak this, or, you're kind of there as a bit of a hype man, I guess. And I think I wasn't expecting that. I think I was very much expecting to be, well, I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting that. I think that was a really interesting, approach, having to be that flexible. Yeah. And the plan changed a lot, and having to be flexible in that and going, okay, this works normally, it's not working, let's do something else. Oh, okay, now I don't have the time to do this, let's do something else. Just being able to have a bag of tools and just being able to whack them out and kind of see what works.
If you're kind of allowed to discuss this, what sort of technical things did you find yourself working on? And was it similar to how you were doing one-to-ones? Were you kind of bringing out an octave arpeggio scale and placing your vowels and your consonants in combos? How was that?
Yeah, pretty much. I think from a technical point of view, essentially it's warming up, which is, it's bread and butter for us as kind of vocal coaches, but always on my mind went up to an E4. So it was around the break for that voice. So it was exactly that. It's working through, okay, vowels, singing it on fricatives, kind of going through that type of stuff. Desensitizing the singer to the pitch, using Mars and wahs and that type of thing. And then a lot of it was character based, because actually, funny enough, I found that the technical stuff normally, which is my go-to, wasn't working as well for this particular singer. So I was like, I have to go more into performance and pretty much try and find stability through emotion, which makes sense when you think of the fact that that is his job. His job is to be an actor, and to be honest, he was phenomenal. I was genuinely wow, this is such an art, to be able to be in character so quickly and then just be a normal human being the next second. Madness, but loved it. But that's how I had to then go more into character work and really, I guess, workshop that more, use what is a more comfortable skill for him to building that confidence and to make him feel like he could do it, which he could very well.
Yeah, that's so cool. We were talking with Ginevra Williams recently about using emotive instruction, imagery instruction, and how that suits one particular person compared to another person and different experiences that they have. And it's all very interesting. And, finding that emotive tools could be the thing that actually fixes the technical thing that you were hearing in the first place.
I think that's exactly it. Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. I think that's exactly what this situation needed. And I think again and again, you're so right. I think in my private studio, I'm seeing that again and again. Certain singers really need that, particularly people who struggle more with things like OCD, let's say, or ADHD, which I have myself. Sometimes it's harder to get into that kind of emotive side. But you're right, that's the thing that kind of fixes it. So I think having had that experience in the studio prior of being oh, this has worked before, and being able to go, oh, this isn't working, okay, what else have I got in my wheelhouse? It was of real benefit.
Oh, and by the way, listeners, if you're looking for any resources on working with neurodivergent students in the studio on emotion, we have 2 really great episodes with Dr. Shannon Coates on how you can use mirrors and the singer touching their faces and using things like that to help bring that in and help them to connect with emotion when that might be a tricky challenge for them. Had you been a fan of Matt Smith or Nick Cave before you went on set to do the work as the vocal coach? And if so, how did you keep it cool?
Yeah, I think obviously I knew who they were. I I'm a human. I think Nick Cave more so, and I think that's just because he's a musician. So, you know, he's a Brightonian. This is where I am in Brighton now. And he's one of those people that he's like a true artist, and he's very much like a musos artist. So I think for him, I was slightly more like, oh, okay, like it's Nick Cave. With Matt Smith, I hadn't watched House of Dragon yet, which I think was actually of benefit. I'm not really a Doctor Who fan, so it was one of those moments where I think like when you have high profile names, like you go, oh, and then you see them, and within 1 minute you're like, oh, it's just a human. It's just a human, and I think that comes with experience. You know, I've been in the industry for a long time. I've been, you know, as a performer, I've been performing for a long time, and I think once you peek behind the curtains of all of these things, it's just people trying to make a living out of something they love, and everybody has worked to get there. It just in different ways. So whether they're actors or comedians or singers or dancers, whatever they might be, I think of course there's that initial moment of, oh, it's you, but I think it's important to remember, like, that is my job. I was there to do my job. And I didn't want, you know, it was very important that I wasn't perceived, number one, to be nervous. Number two, to not be someone at the top of my game. And also, to be someone that wasn't comfortable in that situation. You know, that would have really gone against me. And I was ready for that. You know, I have been training and doing my work for that many years. You just have to kind of, you go in, you go, okay, it's this person. Cool. Business as usual.
And did you feel that you had the autonomy to kind of suggest stuff? Say, have you thought about this? Have you tried this? How about this? Did that feel quite welcome?
Yeah. Matt's great. Like, he's such a nice person. And he was so open straight away with what he felt comfortable with and what he didn't. And I think that's really important because, like we said earlier, I didn't have time to take history, but him being so open and going, I don't like the way that sounds, or I don't like the way that feels. And me being like, okay, let's try and figure out really quickly why that is. Is it technical? Is it coming from you as a performer? If you don't like, you know, you don't like the way you're saying that, or you don't like the way it sounds, like which one kind of is it? Yeah, he was really great. He was really great with that. And it was very collaborative in that manner, as was the director. Like, she was so great. I think I haven't really worked with directors before, and I was obviously quite worried that they would come in and be like, no. But actually, I think all three of us were collaboratively like, we need to get the best out of this person for this project. So it was a lot more like me and Matt work together. We figure something out. We then show the director, show the director, show. And it was just like that. And it was great. I think I would have struggled had I not had that autonomy. But I think going in and being like, no, I know what I'm doing, and setting that standard actually gets you the respect, like I was talking about earlier. Had I gone in and been a bit more like, like, and slightly more unsure of myself, even if I felt unsure, I never showed it because it's my job. And when things didn't go right, which of course they didn't go right sometimes, I was like, cool, let's skip that. Next thing, let's try something different. And being honest about the things that were working and the things that weren't, I think it established that relationship of mutual respect pretty quickly.
You said that there were about two or 3 days that you were there kind of hands-on with things. How long were those times with Matt Smith?
So the first two, when it was like one-to-one or with the director in terms of rehearsals, we're looking at like an hour and a half, 2 hours. That's kind of it. Because it was only like a verse of it. So we didn't need buckets and buckets of time, you know, like it was only kind of like well, it wasn't just the verse, it was all of it, but you know, they cut it obviously in the show. But when it comes to on set, that was it's long. It was long. I think it was like 9 a.m. to like 8 p.m. So it was really, really long. And I think that was one of the things that was so interesting is actually on set, I didn't get time to warm him up. I didn't get time to do that because he was filming something else. So I was there like ready to go, being like, cool, let's get this done. And they were like, no, you haven't got time. He's got to do it now. You're like, okay, cool. So then you have to put your kind of vocal health hat on and go, okay, don't oversing it. Don't go to, especially if you're a cappella, like, can you just talk it? You know, she just needs something, as in the other character just needed something to react to. So then in that instance, don't be singing it for like 3 or 4 hours, however long the shoot takes, like in that specific scene, like you've still got to do it again tomorrow. So then, yeah, you put your vocal health hat on and you go, what can I do to at least preserve the instrument? Because these days are long, really, really long.
that sort of leads me on to ask you then, like, what sort of skills, if you had to name top 3 skills that a singing teacher would need to transfer what they do in the singing studio one-to-one onto a TV show, what would they be that maybe aren't emphasized enough in singing teacher training?
I guess flexibility would be the first one. I think that ability to adapt quickly and think on your feet. I think it's something you learn in the studio as you work with many, many different people. You tend to kind of learn how to do that. But I think that being, yes, certainly an emphasis of sometimes in teaching, methodologies in general, like all science, it's a collective piece of data that is then kind of put in lines, right, and put in outcomes. That's how we learn as humans. But the truth is that there's always people that don't fit that or fit multiples of that, or things like that. So I think the idea of going, yes, you need this foundation, because you do, as a vocal coach, you need a foundation of understanding of anatomy. You need an understanding of how this works. You can't just go in, but knowing that will give you the skills to then be flexible. I think having that flexibility would definitely be number one. I think number 2 is sort of that professionalism piece of what we were talking about earlier in terms of like being able to stay cool, being able to work with different people and stay in your role and learn the boundaries of how you work with that person and what they need from you quickly. I think that would be number 2. With number 3, I think, to be honest, it sounds maybe a little bit ridiculous, but it's sort of having fun. I think that was actually the game changer, is walking in and going, I know what I'm doing, but we're going to have fun while we're doing it. And I think when you're in that role with someone, which in the studio, I mean, all of my clients, we have fun together, right? I believe as humans, like, and as adults, we don't play enough, and we find so much through play, but it gets taken out of us by society the older we kind of get, and we forget how to do that. And having a safe space to do that really matters. And I think no matter how high profile the person is, they're still just the same. So that ability to go, do you know what? We're going to just have fun together. And I might get things wrong and you might get things wrong, but we might find something really cool, and if the person responds to that, great. 9 times out of 10 humans will, because they'll be nervous just as you are. I mean, I haven't had anyone who hasn't responded well to it, but yeah, finding that fine line between work and play, being personable, it really, really makes a difference. Like, they need to feel like you're in their corner. It's like, that's why we coach, right? I wasn't brought in because it was like, she's a great coach, oh my God, it's amazing. I was brought in because they were like, Matt needs a coach. And that's the thing to remember, is it wasn't about me. It was never about me. And I that's not, woe is me at all. That's our role as coaches, is to facilitate. And that's why we do this job, because we want to make people's lives easier. So doing that's free fun. Why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. If you wanted to do a gig like this again and you actively went seeking for it, do you have any pointers as to where we might be able to start with that, or what we could do to get our foot in the door?
I think it's quite similar to learning your craft as a vocal coach. We all have specific people we kind of gravitate towards. And I think if you're looking to work with people that are actors or whether that's stage or screen or whatever, like, go and get as much experience as you can working with those people. Like, talk to people, because like I said earlier, we spot patterns, and that role is very different. That person will think really differently about themselves to someone who works as, I don't know, fronting a band, like a pop band or whatever it would be. So I think like the stamina levels will be different. Loads of things will be different with them. So I think getting more experience in that type of thing. So that might be repositioning yourself if you're looking at, branding and things like that. It will be going more into that and then reaching out and trying to make more connections in that space. We're really lucky as vocal coaches, and we're really lucky in some ways to have social media, because it gives us access to people that we wouldn't normally have access to. And I know certainly I have asked people for help in the past, and I've been asked for help, and I'm always willing to give it, because there is enough room for all of us. There really is. And I think, I follow quite a few people that work in TV or work with theatre actors, and I'll ask them questions, or, whether that's on their posts, or sometimes I'll DM them or things like that, and they always answer. And I think, like, reaching out to people in that industry in the right way, obviously, and then also reaching out to the clientele of that industry, you'll get a better idea as to, again, what's behind the curtain and how to get into that and what the needs of it really are.
If you were going to go for another role on TV, working as a vocal coach, what would be the dream gig? Who would you really like to work with?
Hard. I think there's, like most musicians, I'm very multifaceted, right? So there's kind of like a split screen that's going on right now. Like there's a part of me that goes, I'll redo Wicked Part 1. Just put me in, coach. Like I love musical theatre, and Wicked is my favorite thing. So I would love to work on something like that that's so intense vocally. But then like there's another part of me that like loves contemporary. I love creative music. And many years ago, this is so old, the show, but I can't even remember what it was called. But they were looking for a new singer of In Excess. I can't remember what it was called, but it was like back in the early days of like reality TV. And it was where they found the guy, what's his name, like Mig something, and he started We Will Rock You afterwards. But they were trying to find someone who would front In Excess. So they had loads and loads of rock singers basically, and they were like competing. Now it's very unpunk. It's very unpunk and very unrock. But the idea of working more in that kind of thing, of like working to a deadline and getting artists there really quickly and watching them progress and kind of become more confident, become more themselves, like that makes me tick. That really does. That's really exciting.
You know what I think of when I think of early sort of reality TV dating shows? Do you remember Man Oh Man?
Oh my God, I was just thinking that when they pushed him in the pool.
Yes. You wouldn't be able to do that today, but
I was in primary school, and this is really bad. We used to push the boys down the hill because that's so like kids doing that. We thought it was hilarious. I think it'll be interesting to see what comes for us next as coaches in terms of what stage and screen, and in the industry, like in recording industry, what we've got to tackle next. Like it's frightening but also an exciting time. We're through a time of change right now.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We were speaking with Rachel Drury about AI for a double episode actually, and she was saying how it is quite possible that live music will be even more sought after because we're going to be seeking human connection with this rise in machine.
Yeah, I agree. You I don't feel any worry about me losing my job as a coach. Now, I have friends who are in other industries who obviously have lost work, but you can't beat human connection. And we create, it's what we're born to do. No one's going to take that from us. My only concern as a coach is the fact that we have unachievable goals. That's the main thing that would concern me, is that, especially like they've started doing AI screaming. It's been releasing, and it's like some of that is unobtainable in that specific auto-tune manner. It's getting rid of the humanness of it. But I do agree. I don't think people will lose that need for something real, because it's what we do. We love imperfection. Everybody loves imperfect voices. They love them because they're so interesting.
You're really busy, Candi, but what's coming up? It's January as we record this. What do you want to fulfill over the next 11 months of this year?
Oh, that is quite exciting, isn't it? So I've just opened my 4th choir, so I'm just gonna let that breathe for a while, which would be nice. I've got another like TV thing in the works, which is exciting. And for my coaching at the moment, to be honest, I'm going through like a nice kind of rebrand at the moment. So I'm going through, like relaunching myself as something that feels a little bit more less unique, but maybe authentic to myself, which is quite exciting. Yeah, I'm doing that. And then I'm still performing myself, which is exciting. And I've got a real bug for it at the moment, which is great. So I'm releasing music. I'm going to go gig it. And I just want to keep upping my game, to be honest. I just want to keep upping my game as a coach, upping my game as a vocalist. I just want to keep enjoying what I'm doing and just see what the world throws at me.
And it's always so lovely to see where BAS graduates, people who have done the BAS course, go on to. And so we look forward to keeping our eyes out for the next thing for you. Can you tell us where we can follow you and get in touch and ask our questions and keep updated?
Yeah, if you want to get in touch with me, feel free to do so. My Instagram is Candi Underwood Vocal Coach. So that's Candi, Candi. So just drop me a message. And we can have a little chat. It's always nice to see what other people are doing and to talk to other coaches. I think it's really imperative when you first start out to talk to your peers. I definitely couldn't have done it without that. me and you met through Bast, and we still chat, and I still follow loads of other people that I was on the course with, and I still recommend it to people. I think having a community is really important. So if anyone wants to have a chat, I am around.
Oh, thank you, Candi, and good luck with everything.